In today's video, we're going to look at using the formula average and its counterpart here, Averageif. So yesterday we did count and countif, and when we did count, of course, that gave us the total number within the column, and then we did countif, which added the condition to give us some subgroups. So when we look at the statistical analysis sheet, we can see how we did that here, and it gave us, when we did our formula, you'll notice the countif, the period, and then the male, and then that gave us the three subgroups we wanted to look at, and then the total for our course and for our percentage. So that tells us the count information. Now we want to do the average information for these subgroups and for the course. So we'll start with the course, because it's just the average. And so average is one of the three most commonly used formulas, along with sum and count. Those three make up what pretty much everyone uses within spreadsheets. I almost will never, ever use sum, though, because I just don't need it. Rather, count and average are the ones that I stick with. So when we do this, we're going to say equals average. You'll notice it wants just the range here, number 1, number 2, so we're just going to give it the range. So we'll go to here to period 1. And our range here is F, so then we'll close that. And it's 74.9. Now you'll notice I've gone up here to number, and I've formatted these cells right here to all be number, and then rounded up to 1 decimal point. So one of the things I can do is I can go straight over here to get post-test average. I cannot do that with the pre-test average, of course, because of the growth column. Now what I could do is bring it over here like this, and then just change these H's to I's. And then that would give me the next two. On this one, we'll just go back to the sheet. So we'll do average, and just double click on it so we get our parentheses, or we can just type our parentheses. So period. So now we're doing L. And then we will bring that across, and then we'll do our last one, our fourth test. That'll be O. And now we have our average of our course. So now that we have that, what we want to look at is doing subgroups, and then once we get the subgroups done, we're going to add some columns in here and look at the difference between the course and the subgroup. So to do the subgroup, we can't use average because of the fact that we're actually creating a condition here. So much like we did with countif, with Averageif we'll add in a condition, and you can see the formula over here is there's a little different here because the first thing the formula asks for is the range and the condition. So what are we putting the condition on? And then the average range, which is the scores that we're going to actually average. And this will give us the average of the subgroups. So to do that, we come over here, we say equals, so we say Averageif. Now, the first thing we're going to do is to look at our subgroup. So we'll come back over here, and our first one is male, so we'll do gender. And then we say comma, quotation mark, and then M, because that's what we're going to do our condition. And then comma, and then the next thing is going to be to do the average, which is this one here, period F, or pretest 1. And hit enter, and then that gives us the average. Now we could drag this over, but you'll notice, of course, the problem with dragging it over is we get an error, and that's because this changes from going DD to going to EE, so we would need to fix that. To do that, we can come over here and put a $ in front of the D. This makes this an absolute reference as opposed to a relative reference. So when we do that, and we go over, you'll notice it changes just to GG, which is the post-test score. So we could actually just drag this down and change this M to an F, and it gives us the score. And then we drag that over, and that gives us the score as well. So we can go ahead and complete these. So when we come over here, we do the same thing and pull the formula. What I'm going to do to make this a little simpler is I know this is I, so I'm going to go to here, and I'm going to change the HH to I, and drag that over. So now that's J. So this will be L. L and M, and then this would make this O. And there's our average of our subgroup for males. Now, one of the things we can do is we're just going to pull this down. I'm going to do that. I double clicked it, it went all the way down. So I'm just going to drag that down to here. Now you'll notice these of course are the same, and that's because they're doing the male. So what I'm going to do is do find and replace. Now when I do find and replace here, I cannot just put F, because if I do that, then that changes my formula of average if. It would change it to average IM. So I'm going to use the quotation marks, and then I'll put M, and I'm going to replace that with quotation marks for F. Replace all, 6 replacements, which is what it should be. And now you'll see, here's our scores. So now we have pre-test and post-test scores for males and females. So our next group we'll do is Hispanic. So we'll do equals, Averageif, parentheses, then we'll come over here. So now we're doing column E. So for E, we'll do H, and then comma, and then we'll do pretest, close the parentheses, and so there's that one. Now we'll need to change this, of course, go in, number, round up, and what we can do, we know this needs to stay absolute, so we can put our $sign to make sure it is absolute. So we know we're going to go to G. And then the thing about it is what we could do is pull this over here and drag it down, and we could replace the $E with $G and then the H. So we can do it like this, and pull it down, and then we could find and replace here. And what we would do here is we'd make the D's E's, and then the F would become an H, and then all of this would stay the same. So when we do that, we'll come over here and do find and replace. So the first thing is we're going to take this M, and we're going to make a $sign, and then you'll see D. So $D now becomes $E. So replace all. So we'll make 12 replacements. So the reason why we get the error now is because now we're looking at column E and an F, which doesn't exist. So now we do quotation F, quotation marks to close it. And then we'll do H like this, and replace all. And then there we go. So using find and replace and using these absolute references for formulas can greatly improve the speed at which you do stuff, because you notice I didn't have to go in every single time and rewrite the formula. I was just able to drag and drop and then use find and replace. And so now right here we have the average of every single one of the subgroups that we just picked in here, and then the course average as well. So what I want to do is next is I'm going to add in a couple of columns here. And I'm just going to call this the difference. Save a little time, use copy and paste. So now I have that in. So now when we look at the difference, so we're wanting to look at the difference. We could do pre and post, but basically what we're going to do here is the difference between the average. So we've got our pre-test score here, we've got our post-test score. All I want to do is look at the difference between the post-test scores right here. I could add another column and do difference, like difference pre-test, difference post-test, but all I want to look at here is the difference in this post-test. So we'll just say difference post. And so now what I'm doing is taking this minus this. So what we're going to say is we're going to say equals, and then we're going to say this minus this, and it's a difference of a minus 1.3, which is the difference in the score. Now we can drag this down. The only problem here with dragging this down is we want this to be absolute, so we're going to go up here to make a $sign in between the 5. That makes that E5 there absolute. So now when we drag it down, we know that that's going to be 0. We can see here that we see a negative and then a positive. So when we do that, so we can come over here and do the same thing. So we'll say once again, so equals, parentheses, minus here. We'll go back up here and go ahead and put the $sign in. Close the parentheses. And drag it down. So right away, we're able to start going in, and as we go through this, we're getting more and more information that we can use for data analysis to answer different questions. So if we are wondering how our subgroups did, this is one of our answers right here. How did the subgroups do against the whole? Put the parentheses in the wrong place. And drag these down. So now we see, we go through this, now we've got differences. Now we could conditionally format these really quickly. If we wanted to make the negatives become a red, the easiest way to do that, we just copy across real quick. Now we can copy across, or we could just copy the columns as a whole and just do conditional formatting. So basically we're going to say everything that's less than 0 red text. So we see that here, 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 and here all have negatives. Now you'll notice, of course, when we drag over, we lost what we were looking at here. To fix that, we can just go to View, Freeze Panes, and then we can freeze the first column. And now when we drag over, they stay, and we can still see what we're looking at. So that's starting to set up now to do a little bit of statistical analysis with this. We're actually going to go a lot deeper as we get into this and actually start doing a little more on this page with it as well. But you can see right away we've started to answer some of our questions by doing our subgroups and then looking at the difference of the posts. So when we're looking at males, we noticed that they scored, well, they had 1.3 less points than the course itself. Females were above that average, and then males were below by 1 point. On the next post test, we see here on the difference on post 2, we see that females were below. In post 3, females were again below. Then on post 4, once again, females were low. So there's a definite, when we're looking here, okay, who needs remediation? Well, obviously from looking at this, we stand to know that for some reason or another, female students in our class are not doing as well as our male students, or not nearly as well as just our Hispanic students either. So there's a lot of different questions that we could ask and we can start to get answers for, and then we can start to try to make some changes in an effort to improve those scores and to see if we see a better result. So that's how you can use average and Averageif, and then creating that difference and start to really create some analysis from the data you've collected.